There you go.
Is that Pele?
That's the ball. Chip in it.
Put it in. Get it in. You can knock it in. You can knock it in.
Go on.
Look at this fucking angel.
This had better be on
What
Pro
is
too.
football?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have found the wall. Oh yes, we knew it was coming at some point. What is the boss that's going to upset everybody or be an absolute ton of fun? The boss that you will one-shot some weeks, or in fact we'll spend the next 13 pulls trying to get this right. We have found it. 2 new bosses appearing on the PTR that we got to test, and 2 more coming tomorrow, which I will have a video out for you on Saturday showing those. So let's kick off with the wall at first. It's Dark Inquisitor Zanesh. Dark Inquisitor Zanesh, which features an old favorite in Ashara. Ashara is in this room, as the Dark Inquisitor is doing RP stuff to her. Whatever. Doesn't matter. But what we have here is a very simple fight that's going to get you in trouble. We have a very small room with Ashara in the middle. Should you touch Ashara's orb, she's just going to fling you off the platform. Don't touch it. And then we have obelisks spawning that do damage if you're stood near them, but they are also making little walls. And then we have copies of players appearing periodically. You have to move away from your copies because they explode and do damage to you. And that's pretty much it, besides one little extra mechanic. Just one little thing. Periodically, she's going to put down 3 little pools that look very similar to the Zakul pools if you ever went into the Delirium realm. 3 people will stand in it, and these 3 people will be marked as woke. I'm sure Blizzard's having a lot of fun with that. They're marked as woke, shadow woke, and this means you can play football. That's exactly what it means. You are the 3 players who can play football, and then there will be 2 portals that spawn in the room. One is a bit fancier than the other one. That means the ball is going to come out of that one, and then there's another portal which is slightly less fancy. That is the goal, and the goal then is for the 3 players to head the ball in the correct direction and score a goal into the portal. If you don't do this, you're going to die. And the obelisks and the big circle in the middle are your obstacles. So you need to pass the ball between each other around the room while avoiding all these obstacles. The ball cannot hit the wall or anything like that, and then get the ball in the goal. It's really as simple as that. Players can touch it a couple of times. You get a couple of chances. I think it's like 6 on Heroic and it's 3 on Mythic in order to do this. Once your team has done their job, assuming they haven't hit an obelisk and wiped the raid, or hit the middle of the room and wiped the raid, or hit a wall and wiped the raid, then they are debuffed, meaning they can't do it for a while. Now on Heroic, it doesn't last too long. It's like 2 minutes, which means a same team of 3 players can do it again in like 2 goes. On Mythic, everybody has to do it. Everybody has to do it. The debuff is permanent. So once your team is done, you are hoping, you are praying, you are fingers crossed that everybody else gets this right while you just DPS a relatively simple boss down. So obviously a natural enrage to this boss because you'll just run out of people who can actually deal with the ball and it'll just wander off and hit a wall and that'll be a wipe. So DPS must be high. So we have the DPS check here along with managing this ball. Now it is simple. It is simple. And I will point out that although I'm going to show you some wipes, we were dealing with a lot of lag. We do PTR test on the US realm, so we are playing in America, essentially. And all you do is walk into it facing the direction you want the ball to go. It's really that easy. Whichever way your character is facing is where the ball will go. The trick comes, of course, in the communication. Very similar to what we had with Mecha Talk, which is communicating the colors. Now you have to say, I'm going to do the first hit. I'm going to be at, say, Moon, wherever you put your world markers to sort of redirect the ball towards the goal, and then one other guy who can knock it in. Some classes can solo it, like Demon Hunters and things like that. Their movement is fast enough so they can solo it. Other classes can solo it as well. Whether or not Blizzard will actually change that so you can't solo it might be a thing, because obviously mages have got blink and things like that, and that would make the fight significantly easier, certainly on Mythic, if you could just have one guy do it. But the downside of that is all 3 of the pools need to be soaked. So even if you're going to have a guy soloing, moving the ball, 3 people still need to get debuffed with the ability to control the ball, although it will increase DPS, obviously, by only having 1 player come away from the boss. So there's going to be some management here as to how many people you want away from the boss, because this is a DPS check, ultimately. Not so much on Heroic, and certainly not on Normal, but once you get to the Mythic level, this is going to be like the absolute beast trying to turbo this boss down, depending on how well it's tuned. Honestly, really fun. Really, really fun, but the chance for frustration the chance for you to just go, I hate this. This is horrible. And the chance for it to be like Maiden of Virtue was brought up, where it's just like, will you please just soak the ball? It's not that hard. But people just fail it over and over again. You can see it. You can see it coming. You know what I'm talking about. And it will be the way it goes on certain pulls here. So that's something you want to bear in mind. Let's move over to boss 2 then, which is Padda's Delight. Yeah, both of these bosses were actually really fun. The Hive Mind. The Hive Mind is our council-style boss. We have 2 things, a little similar to Queen's Court in its design. However, it's going to swap. The Hive Mind basically is these 2 bosses, which are called Kazir and Tekris, and is already being called Tetris. Unquestionably, your guilds will probably pick that up and call it Tetris as well. And basically, these 2 bosses, they do a variety of things, from being needed to be interrupts to doing increased damage and things like that. But the big important part is the adds. And there are a lot. There are a lot of adds. So if you are a padder, you're going to be having fun on this boss. The main mechanic that you do need to control, is that periodically one of the bosses will control the Hive Mind, which means you either need to separate the bosses or bring them together, so that's a tank thing. There's also a tank frontal cone that needs to be avoided, but from what we could see, the tank could just see it coming and move out the way. It's just like a shockwave that you can see coming, so just don't stand in front of it, haha. But the actual big thing that's happening here is all the adds. You're going to have loads and loads of adds that have different priorities on when they need to die, depending on which boss is currently in control of the Hive Mind. So you'll have these small drones spawn, and then one of the bosses will make them into a large Ravager. They need to be destroyed very quickly because they're getting healed at the same time, so you have to out-DPS that. You're going to have these rolling acidic Ore-Gorger type creatures rolling around the room, trying to hit you. Just kind of don't be in the middle, because they all pass through the middle, except for some. We had some weird stuff going on, which became a meme, is that we definitely had some that chose targets and went for them, even if that meant they immediately rolled off the platform. But then if we stacked to try and sort of bait them into one spot, they wouldn't do that at all. So it was a very weird thing, exactly how these acidic things work. They just seem to definitely pass through the middle for the most part, although sometimes they will just pick a player and just roll right off the edge immediately and be a non-factor. Either way, they're not difficult, just don't be hit by them. They're rolling towards you and you can see them coming. The rest of the part is dealing with these adds that spawn, especially the larger ones, so you'll be prioritizing those. And then you get some other adds that spawn that teleport around the room and do AoE damage. I should point out, all of these adds can be CC'd. They can be rooted, you can stun them, you can do all this kind of stuff in order to lock them down as best as possible. Looks like a fight where double blood DK is definitely going to be something really nice, just mass gripping them all into one spot for focused laser beams. They are aberrations, so Purification Protocol can come into a big thing here. But ultimately, this strikes me as the fight where you want a huge amount of AoE, but the right amount, because obviously you need to kill the boss. So having too much AoE and everybody padding and everyone sort of AoE spec'd might be a negative to you. However, if you could tank everything on top of the bosses, so you're cleaving the bosses at the same time, unlikely to be a big thing. It really is unlikely to be a big deal, and everyone could just kind of have fun and do massive amounts of AoE damage. I know everybody was kind of enjoying themselves here, except for the classes that weren't particularly good at AoE. This is a fight where I can certainly see a lot of class stacking going on in order to just have the boss, have all the adds destroyed insta. So if you mass grip them and had like half the raid use their focused laser beam, with, say, a Purification Protocol Minor, the adds just melted and you just kept on just DPSing the bosses. However, if you didn't do that and you didn't control them properly and the adds kind of got scattered and wandered everywhere, then you could run into some big problems. It was nice to actually use Starfall for the first time in a long time. I actually got to use Starfall in a raid as a Moonkin. That was kind of fun. But overall, these 2 bosses, really fun. Like, silly fun. I could see Dark Inquisitor Zanesh being that headache that you don't want to deal with. But the Hive Mind is going to be a fight where maybe towards the latter end of gearing, we're certainly going to start seeing people just to destroy the adds and getting frustrated at some of the classes that are able to melt them, the fire mages that are able to just build up a massive ignite on the bosses and then, oops, all the adds walk in and just burn to death. Unholy DKs could be very much a big thing here, or Frost DKs as well. You might see some classes come out of the woodwork here just for their massive amounts of AoE. That could be something that happens here as well. So we'll take note of that. A couple of messages then. One, we did get to play with some of the corrupted gear. I know that's been a hot topic recently. We messed around with it. Basically, if you keep your corruption low, sort of some people played with the void zone dropping. I didn't, and didn't notice the slowing effect at all. So I just kept my corruption at about 20, which is seemingly what Blizzard intends. They intend you to have very low corruption, maybe wearing one item, something like that. And then later on down the line, as your legendary cape gets stronger, because they have confirmed now they're just going to tie the legendary cape in order to have more corruption resistance, then you'll add more items over time. But if you're just having, say, the slowing effect, it's really not a big deal. It's not great, but you barely notice it, so it's not really a thing. And once you have low corruption, the void zone itself spawns not very often. It's a very, very low chance to spawn, and it's also relatively small if you keep your corruption low, so it's not that big of a deal. So that's something you want to bear in mind there as well. Okay, on the other topic, why am I hiding the damage meter? Well, obviously my guild is well aware that I record videos for you guys, which means they use details to make all sorts of hilarious names in order to troll. It's as simple as that. In order to troll and get a rise, and there's certainly going to be names in there that definitely offend somebody somewhere, so it doesn't really matter. This is PTR testing, but there you go, that's why. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.